I finally got round to renting Taz Quest for Burger. This has been quite expensive for quite some time. There's no evidence that it was ever released on DVD, but it is on multiple streaming sites, and it ranges in the UK at the time of recording. It ranges from $6.99 currently on Amazon Prime to I think $9.99 on YouTube. I'm not sure if that's buying or renting on YouTube, but I rented it for $6.99. And realistically, I'm not a huge Taz fan, but I love Looney Tunes, so I was waiting for the price to come down. Having now watched it, I honestly don't think it's worth that amount. I'm glad that I took the plunge. I can finally say I've watched it. I don't need to think about it anymore. But while it's okay, had it been free on a streaming site, that would have been better, but I just don't necessarily think it's worth paying that much for, unless perhaps you're a huge Taz fan. This was released in 2023. It's directed by Ryan Kramer and it's written by Bryan Condon. And we have a voice cast including Steve Blum as Taz and Hadley Gannaway as Quinn. And Quinn is a little Bandicoot and she is absolutely adorable. I do like the design of the character. I think she's very, very cute. And her father's been kidnapped. The town's food supply has been kidnapped. So she enlists the help of Taz to fix everything. As a concept, I think it's a bit strange, but it does work. It does work for the most part. Things seem to make sense as the narrative develops, so the story is decent. It's not the most interesting and it is quite slow, but going into it I wasn't sure if the narrative would work, if it would be that engaging. It's fine. As a story, I don't really have any major issues with it. It's maybe not the most fascinating, but it works better than I was expecting. Quinn is a character I really like. Taz, I'd say Taz maybe feels like Taz about 70% of the time. Occasionally he would say something that seemed a little bit too eloquent for the character. The voice acting as well is not completely what I was hoping for the character, but it's good enough. It's recognisable as Taz, but it doesn't necessarily sound like a carbon copy of Taz, but it's not too bad. And the voice acting in general for all of the characters is pretty good as well. The animation style is, I think for me, the thing that I enjoyed the least. In general, there's nothing wrong with it. If this is the first Looney Tunes or Looney Tunes-esque thing you've ever seen, then you wouldn't really say anything about the animation. You'd hopefully think it looks pretty decent because it's well animated, the color palette's nice, the style is consistent. However, it just doesn't look like a Looney Tunes film. It doesn't look like a Taz film. If I showed you any random frame from this that didn't feature Taz, I don't think you would ever say that's based on a Warner Brothers cartoon character. The style just isn't right. It looks great, but not for a Taz film. And the same goes for the character of Taz. Yes, he is recognisable. If I showed you a picture of him, I'm pretty confident you would recognise that is Taz. But he just looks a little too fluffy in some ways. And I don't want to say too detailed. That's not quite what it is. But Taz in general doesn't look as fluffy for the most part. And I mean, he's fine. He's recognisable as Taz. But again, the animation style just isn't quite what I'd want for this character. So I don't love it. But again, judging it purely on its own, the animation style's fine. It's consistent. It's not ugly. There are no problems there. It just doesn't feel like the style to accurately represent a Looney Tunes character. I'd say this is also maybe a little more of a children's film, whereas I feel like Looney Tunes has a wider appeal, not just because of the nostalgic aspect, but sometimes there are jokes or one-liners and things in Looney Tunes cartoons that might go over the heads of younger viewers and could actually appeal to older viewers, not in the sense that it's adult humour, but things that just may not be as obvious to younger viewers. Whereas with this one, I feel like everything was written with a younger viewer in mind, which is not necessarily a criticism. It's not a bad thing, just an observation that compared with other Taz things, other Looney Tunes films, I feel like this one is aimed more at a younger audience. That being said, there are messages in this that can appeal to anybody of any age. For example, there's a message that really focuses on the fact that there's nothing wrong with needing help. In fact, that's a direct quote. There's nothing wrong with needing help. I think particularly for young children who might feel ashamed to ask for help, they might be scared to ask for help, but I feel like that carries across into adulthood as well. So definitely some good takeaways for older viewers. And if you like Taz in general, then give it a watch. But if you're not a huge Taz fan, Taz is one of my least favourite Looney Tunes characters, then I don't think it has much to offer. For young children, maybe, but for older viewers looking for a decent story, maybe looking for that Looney Tunes nostalgia, unless you really, really, really love Taz, or if you can access it for free on a streaming site. In the UK, that's currently not an option. Then maybe it's worth watching if you don't have to pay extra for it. But unless you're a huge, huge Taz fan, I'd say it's maybe just worth waiting until at least it comes down in price.